Hi, all, and welcome back to the Congressional App Challenge Debugged podcast. I'm your host, Meva, and today our guest is Jay Ahn, who is actually our first returning guest, which is super exciting. And for those of you that have not listened to Jay's episode, quick refresher. Jay is the VP of Operations for the Emerging Markets Group at Akima LLC, an Alaska Native corporation, which is headquartered in Herndon, Virginia. It provides a variety of mission-critical services and cutting-edge technical capabilities to the federal government, while also creating long-term assets for its shareholders in Alaska. As the VP of Ops for EMG, Jay ensures the seamless operation of the business unit and leads several innovation initiatives to include building resilient public safety systems and enabling sustainable digital transformation. Jay, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Good, how are you? It's so good to see you again. Thanks for having me back.
So good to see you again. Thanks for wanting to come back. Really appreciate it. I'm doing great. Really excited to have you here. I would love to just get straight into the meat of the content. Can you talk to us a little bit about what do you do? What does it mean to be a VP of operations?
So my title is sort of a catch-all, and it could mean many things to different people. But I specifically, as Vice President of Operations at Emerging Markets Group, which is a business unit within the overall Akima enterprise, and what we do is that we're focused on really deploying innovative solutions for the both defense and civilian sectors with the advanced technologies. So I focus a lot on strategic initiatives, things like digital consulting, and you mentioned public safety as you're describing my role, and the really integration of emerging technologies to enhance the mission outcome. So my role centers around bridging innovative technical solutions with the operational needs of our customers and make sure that our projects are aligned with our customer expectations for high impact solutions. And it could mean a lot of things, so I make sure that pretty much the employees have what they need, the leaders have what they need, and customers have what they need for our collective success, and that is really advanced technology centric.
That's incredible. And how did you get into this career path?
So, it's funny because the first time you invited me to your podcast was to talk about my background.
Yeah.
If you recall, how I grew up in the professional career field as a IT staffing recruiter to where I am at today. So, my academic background may not be technically focused, but I've always had interest. I mean, I participated in, chemistry Olympiad. I was participating in a competition where you're only given wooden sticks and rubber bands to build an airplane to see how long it's going to stay in air. So I've always had interest in STEM, and when I got into IT recruiting, it was really about how do I have more productive, meaningful conversation with people about their careers, and that got me thinking I really should know what they do. And then one thing led to another. I picked up coding and I started with Python, and that sort of caught on fire, and eventually I took hiatus from sales or business development field to go do something more technical, where I was doing things like medical device cybersecurity and building tools with the DevOps teams that are international in 2 different continents, we're doing research and development projects to advance the cybersecurity initiatives, especially in the health IT arena. So how I got into it was really me chasing my interest and paying attention to what got me excited, what made me happy, really.
That is an incredible journey, and I appreciate you recapping that for us. And for anyone who's more interested in learning about Jay's background, please go listen to that episode. Now we specifically want to talk about internships, internship advice, especially because you set up a new style of an internship program. Could you give us an overview of what that internship program that you set up was?
So this was our inaugural year, Akima's inaugural year of doing STEM internship, and I had the pleasure of having 4 intern colleagues with me this summer. In fact, today is their last day of 11 weeks of internship.
Oh, wow. Congratulations to them.
Yeah, and I'm super proud of them, and I'm so happy to be speaking about their experiences and the program that we built around them. So, when I first thought about designing an internship or STEM internship program, I had one thing in mind, which was to be world class. Well, what does that mean? So I had to really look back at my previous intern experiences, as well as what I have observed from the industry as to how other companies design and run their STEM or just an internship program in general for both high school and college students. Well, one of the goals and objectives I had is, okay, I have everyone, like I have 4 interns that I had to interview and select from age group of 19 to 21, everyone from rising sophomore to rising senior, all in computer science programs. So what I wanted to provide as an outcome to this internship is what I consider to be battle-tested, production-grade skills. Well, what does that mean? What I have observed in the internship program is typically it's mostly about observing, and there's great merit to that. You want to know what it's like to be a software developer, software engineer, or to be in technical field, but in a professional setting, right? So, we assume that there's a lot that interns do not know. Therefore, we try to provide them experience to observe and see what it's like. Well, I just took a little different approach, and instead of me assuming what they could or couldn't do, I set a goal of let's build a team to emulate an experience of what it's like to work in a team, because you and I both know in the post college in a professional setting, you never do anything alone. Everything is a team, right? So I wanted to build a team who's responsible for everything from conceptualizing a tool or product to design or architect design to develop, test, and deploy all in one. And I wanted interns to own it and decisions to come from them. And I actually made the functional requirement to be based on our operational needs. More specifically, our public safety sector, where we're managing 911, mass warning notification, giant voice, and all these public safety or emergency communication systems around the world for U.S. Army and Air Force. And what I told them is, hey, let's go build something that'll help with the mission outcome and help manage or track the systems that are across the world. And this tool is intended to be used. And I asked them to build an MVP that my CDX digital consulting team can take over to put to an operational use. So I wanted them to have an experience of what it's like to use Agile to build tools in a cloud using technologies that they have not used, but knowing that they have good foundational skills that they have gained from college, right? The classrooms, what they've learned. And what I found is that they are primarily learning C++ or Java, right? So I wanted to give them, when I say real life experience, it was real life experience. And I wanted them to do something meaningful. So as we industry talk a lot about, hey, we want to do, it makes us happy to do something meaningful. We want our work to mean something, to have meaningful contribution to the mission. Well, what better way than for them to come together as a team to learn who they are within the team, what contributions they can make, and to really learn about how they are and who they are as a contributing team member, as a leader. And they had to actually rotate roles within the Agile team. So every week they had different roles as a Scrum Master, product owner, back-end, front-end developer, tester. So they were rotating each sprint cycle as to what role they held. And at the end, they got to actually brief the United States Air Force and United States Army TACOM customers, who's ultimately going to be users of this tool. So in some ways, they got even more experience than some of the other developers have and get to do. So they did all that in 11 weeks, and where they had to learn everything from cloud, agile, and how to use Jira, Confluence, to different types of technologies to build a front end, back end, and they had to do a lot of failing fast, right? Because they really have to be able to justify the decisions that they were making, and I made sure that they were supported by group of mentors with the different skill sets, who's going to guide them through, because it's not one of those you throw them in fire and see if they survive situation, because day-to-day guidance and mentorship is critically important. You never want interns to sit in a cubicle somewhere and kind of see what they have to do. They don't want to bother anybody, and all of us have felt that way as an intern before, and I wanted to avoid all of that and make sure that they feel like they're a contributing member of the organization day one. And I made very clear to them on day one that you are going to be treated like a full-time employee, because you are, and I have always referred to them as colleagues, not interns, because I thought the term intern came with some unwanted expectations and the standards of how we treat them, how we interact with them, and what we expect of them. So that's sort of a summary of how the internship was designed, and I don't want to bore you with all the nitty-gritty details, but that's the high-level summary.
I think that's absolutely incredible. I think you identified some. This summer, actually, I had my first 2 interns ever, so I completely relate to what you're saying, and I think that you've identified some really important problems, right? Like, one problem that I've seen, at least my interns and some other interns, when I have been an intern as well, it's like you're scared to have an opinion. And so I think this really empowers them to have an opinion, because they're with their peers and they're really supported by these resources, right? And I think reframing the way that you refer to them as sort of interns as colleagues, I think that's also very powerful, right? Because it's a mindset switch. I think that's such an important learning lesson. I'm curious, how did you define success for the interns or your colleagues during this process?
So there were several. I thought a lot about what do we call success, and in fact, it came with the different ways I thought about success for internship as a whole, and also for the individual. So one of the first discussions I had with my colleagues during the first week was and this is something that in fact asked in every interview, that is, what are the 3 words that you would like people to describe you when you're not in the room with them? If you're talking to people that you knew and then you leave the room, what are the 3 words do you think that they'll use to describe you today, and what are the 3 words that you would like for them to describe you when you leave the room? And there's a difference, what they're going to say today, what they're going to say tomorrow, or what you would like for them to say. So I really focused a lot on who they want to be, right? The brand that they want to build, and how I can support them through this experience. So that's one part of what I consider as success, right? If they had, because that actually generated a lot of good discussions about, hey, I'm not comfortable with public speaking, or I would like to become confident, or I would like to improve in this area. That extended beyond their technical skills, because to me that is more important than technical skills and what you can learn in or learn how to code. And when looking back, when I thought about all the mistakes that I made in my first few jobs, or the first few years of my career, my God, like, I wish I had known certain things. Like, I wish someone told me that this is how I came across, or I could have done this differently. Well, yes, you have to fail fast and learn it for yourself, but you have an opportunity here where you're treated like, because you are a full-time employee in a professional setting, why not use this opportunity during 11 weeks to figure out who you want to be and the traits that you want to work on, and actually do it, and be able to see the difference and the experience, that what that progression, what it's like to make improvements here. So that was a big part of what I considered to be a success, the indicators of success as part of the internship. And I didn't put too much Now, what I shared with my colleagues as success indicator, yes, there were 4 sets of sprints, and they had set of requirements they had to come up with, and they had to successfully complete. But it wasn't about what they had come up with initially as all the features they had to build within the 4 or throughout 4 sprints. It was about making smart decisions and being able to justify and meeting those really foundational or core functional requirements. There were about 11 features that we had talked about, but it was really about, hey, there are 3 specific and very critical business needs or functional requirements that, regardless of how many features you have, ultimately this MVP needs to prove that we can meet those requirements. So it was really about that, and then also and we also had briefs, multiple sets of customer and internal briefs where they had to justify and provide rationale on what they did, how they did it. So a lot of what I called success, and it's really a hard question to answer because I don't think it's just one thing that I said. If you successfully built this MVP, then it's a success. Well, no, it's more about have you been able to learn the things that you didn't know how to use, and you use them effectively to meet these operational needs in the form of MVP. And that was really the core of what I considered to be success. I didn't really care about how many features they were able to build. And I'll tell you what, they actually exceeded every expectation I had. And at some point, the mentor came to me and said, hey, are you sure we're not pushing them too hard? And I said, it's not really our prerogative to say whether they can or can't. Let's go ahead and present them what the requirements are and see what they can do, right? Because I don't like to tell someone they can't do something, and in fact, I just met them, right? So I want to build a world-class internship program, and I think I have the world-class talent, so let's see what they can do and have them figure it out, and we're there to support them. So I could have put some metrics on velocity and some of the other things, but it was really about how they came together as a team, the personal and professional development, and really application of the skills they had and had to gain quickly, and how they, as a team, put to use to build something that works. And I will say that they did it seamlessly and just successfully, and it was exceptional. I've seen, I cannot tell you how many times I was pleasantly surprised and humbled as they really manifested what I considered to be a building of an exceptional team with these colleagues between ages of 19 and 21-year-old. And what they did is nothing short of just phenomenal and impressive. So I will say, even if I had some indicators of success, they would have exceeded all of them. And that's what I loved about this, is it was full of surprises, and it was us collectively learning together.
That's absolutely incredible. I have 2 really quick questions for you. First is, as we know, nothing is perfect. So I'm curious, how do you look at iterating this program for the next internship?
So one thing I spoke with my colleagues, intern colleagues, about is, and we had these routine 101s where we had the retrospective and introspection sessions where we had candid discussions about what was working and what wasn't working, and we're constantly adjusting. And in fact, I just had 101s and group discussions about this internship program overall, of what went well and what we want to do different, and what I want to see this program to become with the help of the pretty much founding members of this program, my colleagues, intern colleagues, is that they're going to remain as mentors. They're going to become they're going to become alumni of this program, where they're going to continue to be engaged as mentors for the future classes. So their class of 2024 and for class of 2025, they'll continue to be engaged as mentors. And so now they get a different experience. But as I build, and as I start to think about designing the project for the next year, I'm going to be working with my current colleagues, intern colleagues, to make sure that I'm thinking about it and I'm leveraging the experiences and lessons learned that they had to ensure that we're designing a effective and meaningful project for the next generation of next iteration of interns. We were constantly failing fast. We were having candid discussions about what is going right and wrong, and what could be better, and I want to apply the same thing at the macro level for the whole internship program for next year.
That's an incredibly iterative and very agile process and approach to the program, so I think that's really great. My last question for you is, for any of our high school or middle school students that are listening, what advice do you have for them as they approach internship programs?
So I will say, and this is something that I want to say to whoever's listening from the industry, that I would love for high school students, and I did internship in high school, right?
Yeah.
And also in college, and I know you have too, Meta. Is we want there to be enough internships out there that promises not just learning but actual hands-on involvement in projects that reach production or that reach some sort of meaningful outcome, that they can own it and go, I did that, right? Because observing alone, I think, especially at the high school level, most internship programs that I've been part of was I get to see it, I get to attend meetings. Well, I hope to see that we are as an industry, getting smarter about how to build next generation of tech leaders, and that has to start at middle school, high school, and college, and so on. And especially for high school students, I will say my biggest advice is don't be scared to ask how you can make contribution to whatever it is that you are observing or you're supporting. Because we are, again, the term intern could easily make somebody feel like, well, I don't want to bother anybody, I need some guidance, and what have you. Well, any questions you have, ask. And if you do see an opportunity where you can help improve it or you can help make contributions to it, then please do speak up. Because one of the greatest things I've done in my personal internship experiences is I took initiative, I asked, and I showed them what I could do, and I had an opportunity to articulate with management about what it is how I could help the organization by being here. Because internships are not charity, and we need to stop treating it like charity, where we call interns smart and, oh, you're so intelligent, you're so smart. No, ultimately there's an outcome, that is that they're investing weeks of their lives with a company under the premise of this internship thing. Well, what are you trying to get out of this as a company, as well as the interns who are trusting you with the parts of their lives and all of their summer? Well, so again, the advice is don't be scared to ask or speak up about how else you can make contribution using your skills. That would be my biggest advice.
Such a great piece of advice to end on, and I really hope that the industry follows your lead and you're able to make changes in the way that internship programs are run, because I think this is definitely the future of internships. Really appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast and speak on this topic. I think it's really valuable, and thank you so much again, and hope you have a great rest of your day. And to our listeners, thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and we'll catch you next week for a new episode.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.